I am Tsepo Pule, a husband of one and father of two. For years, my identity had been tied to what I do for a living until the year 2020 when everything fell apart. #COVID-19. Almost 5 years ago, I became a father for the first time and I thought I was ready. Looking down at my son's chubby cheeks, my heart filled with pure joy and trepidation, seeing my exhausted wife on the bed after a water birth, I vowed to be the best father ever. It turns out, I wasn't entirely ready to be the best father ever. I had not prepared accordingly for the different stages in my life, career, marriage, and parenting. I have since lost my job and therefore have chosen to be fully focused on what's important to me. I'm doing right by my vow and I'm hoping to foster a community of fathers that share similar values. Welcome to the Timers Playbook, a podcast series on fatherhood, proudly produced by 1730 Media. On today's show, I've got Ntsiki. She is the founder and directress of Apple Tree Montessori. Now, as a parent, particularly as a father, I think it's important for me. It's part of my value system to be involved in my children's education. I want to know who is teaching my child, what is it that they're learning, how do they spend their time during the day. So I called Ntsiki over to the show so that she can basically help me understand that, but the broader topic of early childhood development and why that stage is so critical and what kind of things that we as parents and as fathers specifically should be paying attention to and how we can basically get more involved in our children's education. We're recording the conversation at the school itself, so you'll hear children in the background either screaming, crying, or just having fun as we're talking. Welcome to the podcast, by the way. You're the second female to be on the podcast.
Well, thank you kindly.
And we're very happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
Founder and directress at Apple Tree Montessori.
Yes, that's me.
As a directress, what are your overall duties and daily duties?
Yeah. As a directress, with Montessori, because that's what we use. We don't use teacher or we don't use principal. And I know you like calling me principal. We don't use that. And so the role of a directress is the teacher of that particular classroom, right? So, for instance, Mpo is the directress of the 18-month to 3-year-olds. And I'm the directress of 3 to 6-year-olds. And so I know a lot of people are like, okay, feminist, nah, she does not want to call herself the director of her school, you know.
I never thought about that. But
really?
Okay. No, it never crossed my mind.
So no, it's not that. I was not trying to be all revolutionary about anything. It's just that it's a lead directress of a classroom.
So it's not the overall.
I am the directress of the 3 to 6-year-olds.
But not the whole school. I thought it was just the title because you run.
No,
Do you run
no.
school?
As the founder of this, I'm the founder of the school.
Okay.
And the directress of the 3 to 6-year-old
Head
classroom.
directress.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now we'll get into that in terms of the school and what you do exactly, you know. But like I said, I think personal stories of how we get to things is what interests me the most. You said you aspire to be a fashion designer.
You?
Or fashion designer to directress. Why fashion designer in the first place?
You know, because I really like the dynamic world of fashion. Like, I mean, fashion itself, it's an art. It's a way of expressing yourself, you know? Believe it or not, when I was younger, yes, I was quite bubbly and talkative and whatnot. But for me to just be in my zen as a child or to just calm down, I would find solace in finding fabric, different types of fabric. And this is me when I'm about 8 years old, right? I find different textures in fabric. I would crochet a lot. And so I would create clothes out of that. I remember one time I got in trouble with my sister. Oh my goodness, my sister and I had this cat and dog fight that time because my parents used to buy her all the nice clothes because, I mean, she's older, she can take care of the clothes. Whereas with me, I'm running around, you know, playing in the mud, climbing trees and all that stuff. So they're like, nah, we'll just get her normal fabric, cotton and whatnot. And they bought her these very nice silk. I don't know if it's silk or like, yeah, that's very shimmery, silky, soft pajamas. And did I not just chow them gasker and made a very nice ball gown for my doll.
Oh, wow.
I made this beautiful boob tube gown for my doll, and underneath was a lining, a crocheted dress as well. So I put the crocheted with the wool and the silk together, and the wool crocheted part would come out at the bottom. And I went to my mom and I'm like, look what I made. Yo! You know, when a person is like stuck between I'm proud of you and shit, man, you're in trouble. She's gonna murder you when she finds out.
It sounds like it.
Did she not kill me? No, she smacked the living lights out of me. She smacked me like big time. And so that was the kind of child I was. Like, I was always interested in just playing with fabric.
Okay.
So that's why fashion design.
And so I see that a lot with the kids. So is that more you or the school? Because I see them, they do things that I never thought that kids do in school, right? It never crossed my mind that... You know what I'm saying? So
with the kids, because the thing is, I mean, we grew up in a time when we were told that for you to express your intelligence or to know how intelligent you are is through like just academic work, right? You go to school, you sit behind a desk, and you work. You listen to the teacher, you write a test, you pass. If you get less than 50 or 50, basically udomkop, right? And with me, I was more of, I mean, the academic was there, but I was just not interested in sitting down and studying, you know? I was just not interested in sitting down and studying. And for the longest time, I would just get average marks because I was just not about... Okay, Ntsiki, you've got an exam, you've got a test, go home and study. I'd be like, whatever information I know from the class is the information that I'm going to give them, and that's it, right? So as I grew old, and throughout that time, I thought I was not smart. And as I grew older, then I realized, as I studied child psychology as well, and child development, and then I realized, damn, actually, you know, people are intelligent. You know, it's just that we have different forms of intelligence. There are people who learn through just looking at something and they will tell you the measurements by looking at it. And there's a person who was sitting behind the desk who will tell you, I need to get a ruler, I need to get this, I need to get that, to give you the exact measurement of that thing, right? And there are people who will say, okay, fine. So now they ask the what ifs. So I cater for all those kind of people, the people with different types of intelligence. So I know with kids, they have different ways of learning, right? There are ones who actually do well with sitting down behind a desk and they will do their work. There are ones who actually learn by doing, touching things. And there are ones who learn by watching their friends do. So I have to accommodate all of those. And that's why you will see different ways of just doing things in class. So it's not just about me, but it's also just my experiences that informed me to actually just cater for everyone. Yeah. Then when you were thinking about moving into education, right? So you mentioned that your son was, I think, catalyst to where we are now, which is Apple Tree. Right? What actually happened with you and your son that led to? So actually, my son is the catalyst of me moving into early childhood development. Education has always been in my family life. That's why, I mean, I said to you that there was this joke, this internal joke that we had. But anyway, we'll touch base on that. So with my son, what happened was he was 3 years old. And like my mom, she's a teacher ya Setswana, and Babu Setswana in the house. And that's how I also just learned Setswana as well. Because I mean, in my family to go into like what we call the private schools then, you know, well, not the private, my brothers and sisters, my brothers and sister, right, went to private schools then, but as for me, it's like, it's a private school, Yamahoa, you know, so ki medium of instruction, ki English, do you know what I mean? There was no vernac done as a second language and whatnot, and so I caught on Setswana at home. So I did the same with my son. And it was not something I like literally went out and said and that's it. You know, I mean, I would branch off into English as well because there are some words I do not understand them, so I would just mix. But when he's at my mother's house, Setswana through and through. When he started preschool, I mean at 3, you know, the child will speak what he's been exposed to, right? And at this point, Setswana. He goes to creche, Yamahoa, and I think the first week, they come back to me, they're like, oh, by the way, Mulemo cannot speak in English, so can you please try and speak English to him? I listen to them. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, and then what else? They're like, yeah, and he can't hold scissors. He can't cut. So I look at this woman and I'm like, are you serious? But like, nah. I must teach him how to hold scissors when you are here. So, and at that time, I didn't feel it was about the scissors per se. I just felt like it was just too much picking on him. And I made a decision there and there that I don't want my child victimized for whatever would be the problems that would arise as we move forward with this school. So I was like, no, first of all, I will not speak English with him. If your school is an English medium of instruction, then yes, you guys can carry on teaching him English, but nakwaka and it ends there. Yeah. And they were like, then he's gonna have a problem with literature or literacy, and he's gonna have a problem with understanding the work. I'm like, then you're not doing your job properly. Then I don't want you as my child's teacher. I literally had to call my sister because she has family Koluka in Rustenburg. She was married Koluka, and I had to call them. They had to call Hosana to give us a letter ya Hosana so that I can find a school for my son. And I did that. He was the happiest person ever. And I never heard stories about a person who can cut. I never heard a story about a person who can cut, a person who can communicate with his peers. Actually, I got like more satisfactory reports all the time. Yeah. So then, yeah, it was a matter of, you know what, actually, if I'm going through this, what about the other parents? They don't have a voice. Because, you know, I mean, I can be very vocal as well. When something does not sit well with me, I can't pretend like I like it.
Yeah, those words, you must speak out.
I have to.
I know such a person.
I know one too. I know one too.
Yeah. All right. And so what kind of changes did you see in him exactly? So when you say Okomzing, as compared to when he was here? So
the changes were that he was more comfortable speaking in Setswana, right? And he actually learned more Setswana when he was there. Because, you know, like how we name items, like things and whatnot. He knew more items, like he knew them off as Kastswana, you know? lemon ke ratsuru, and he would say ke kopa ratsuru. So we'd have full-on conversations.
Yeah.
Ka Setswana, you know, and some of the things he would actually even teach me.
Yeah, as soon as because Runa Soweto, I can remixed.
Hey.
So lemon, ki lemon.
Ki lemon. Hey, no, ki ratsuru.
Oh wow.
Ki ratsuru ebotla. You know, so we'd have things like that. Ratsuru is sour.
Yeah.
And so we'd have those kind of conversations, and then God, this child came to the city. And then it was English all the way. But Setswana is like, he speaks like me now. So he understands when I speak to him in Setswana full on. But the response is on some ish. He needs to dig deep. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what leads you? So you come from a background of education, and now you've got the situation with your kid. Now he's thriving. What leads to the school? Like, how does one even start at school, and what led to it?
So that incident, again, I'm going to go back to that incident. So I then went back and asked myself, if I'm going through this as, well, I was a qualified high school teacher then, but I was not practicing as an educator. I was in corporate. And my question to myself was, what about the parents who actually experience this? They're told that their children should not speak in their mother tongue. And basically, and they don't have a voice. You know, what about them? Do I want something like that for them? And it actually just bothers me that there are people who go through that all the time, every single day. And I also used to struggle with the fact that, I mean, most of my friends would call me and say, yo, there's a certain school that does not want to admit my child because ridula khagal, you know? And these are not black schools, by the way. These are not schools that give you all these problems. It's schools that we consider either Model C or private schools, or schools that are Eurocentric, and that's it. And I'm like, because I'm loud and I'm vocal, I need to utilize it in a way that it's more constructive. And I was like, okay, fine, I need to open a school. And at that time, I thought it was just easy to open a preschool. You know, you just wake up, provident fund, and invested in like ditulonyana.
Yeah.
And or invest in chairs and whatnot. No.
So what is it? Like, I'm assuming there's legislation, there's regulation.
I did my research, and I'm like, okay, how to open a preschool? You know, like the how-to question that everybody asks the moment they're about to branch off into something on their own. And I then, like, I was working at a school at that moment, Kolibone in Rustenburg, and I'd heard like different methods of teaching or learning or education, you know, and the one that's like really stuck in my head was this Montessori way of doing things. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to open a Montessori school. I'm going to resign next month immediately, you know. I'm going to resign next month. Next month I can resign. I calculate the provident fund. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to invest all this in preschool. And I sat down, and these guys, there's an association as well and whatnot. And they tell me, they're like, no, you need to study to become a Montessori. Oh, no, actually, I'm skipping. Before then, I then applied for a bursary through, like, this girl. I don't know, you know Fix, right? Fikile. Wait. She was a DJ for 5FM.
Oh, no, Fix. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
Fix.
DJ. Yes.
So Fix, I heard, like, in passing, I can't remember how Fix and I met. Heard in passing she was giving away bursaries to a student who would be running a social enterprise.
Oh, yeah, she used to run the thing.
The Fix Scholar.
Yeah, there was something like that.
Yes.
I remember, yeah.
Oh, yes, it was the time when I used to listen to 5FM as well.
That's I forgive you, it's okay.
It was the time I used to listen to 5FM as well. So, yeah. I think that's how I heard it. And then I called in to find out more about it. They're like, no, the scholarship's done, bursary's done. You can apply for the social enterprise course though, like the qualification through Gibbs. Went to Gibbs, and I even gave them my story anyway, to apply. And they passed on my information to her. Went for an interview, got the scholarship, and then I studied with Gibbs.
So was the studying for the purpose of opening a school, or was it just something you wanted to do as part of your...
It was for the purpose of the school, because they were saying a social enterprise. And I needed to do a report of some sort. I wouldn't say it was a thesis, because it's just, it's not a master's, right? So I had to do a report on this particular project that I want to start.
Okay.
That was the idea then, to say, okay, fine, I'm going to start a preschool or a group of preschools for 2 people who are from underprivileged areas, like Omitsing, like people who do not have access to resources. That was my project, and I did a whole 2 years on that project, and I got the scholarship, studied through Gibbs, and the whole point now after graduating was to go back and start this preschool, right?
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
Okay.
And then I think as I was driving all the time out of Gibbs, the lights of Rosebank kind of on some girl.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It wasn't the case. So when I got Komutsing, now it's time for me to take off the project off the ground. And all I can say is that I got screwed over by very big people, right? They really screwed me over. When you talk to somebody about your idea, they're like, no, nah, it's not going to work and whatnot. And then the next thing,
it's life.
Yeah.
No, I know that thing.
Yeah. So that happened to me, and it was just not one person, it's the entire organization. So my heart was broken, obviously.
So these are people you were looking to work with, or
I was looking to work, because they were my employers.
Oh, okay. So you went to them with the idea.
I went to them with the idea because first of all, they are in the education space already, and secondly, they run all the communities. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, they know the communities. They would know which community would need a preschool of this sort and which community to go to. If we actually do work together, we would end up with more than 11 preschools that are like this,
Okay.
So yeah.
And the bottom line, now I must give a share to Ntsiki.
Yeah, and then they like, no, you can become an employee. It's fine. I'm like,
I was gonna say, did they offer you a job?
They offered me a job, and I'm like, no, we are in this together. We're partners here. That's at least like, no, it's not gonna work. I'm like, okay, cool. Next thing I see, they started off with satellite preschools and whatnot in certain remote areas, and that was that, and that's how it happened. And then my ego was bruised for quite some time, but then I just carried on. And at that time, then I needed to, so now moving forward, I was like, what kind of preschool do I want? I need to know the kind of preschool I want. And then I heard about this Montessori schools. I thought with Montessori then, just like any other preschool, you need time, you need money, and you need space, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. And then they're like, no, sis, you have to go study. Again? Yes.
Okay.
And then all along, so with the Gibbs studies, I was doing part-time. So I would work part-time and I would study part-time. That's why it was longer than it should have been. And eventually then I resigned. After the Gibbs gig, I was like, no, I'm done now. I'm resigning. They're like, can you please consult for us then? I was like, okay, fine. I'll consult my terms, everything, right? I don't need to come to the office all the time. I don't want to come to the office all the time. And I then went to study the Montessori course.
Oh, okay, this is a specific course.
Yes, you have to study.
Oh, wow.
You don't just wake up and be on some other principal.
I'm very happy now, my kid goes there, right? So this was my way of investigating. Sister,
oh, buddy, listen.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so Montessori, I've Googled, I've tried to look at others. Like, what is it?
So with Montessori, it's a curriculum. Well, you have a set curriculum. In life, we have a set curriculum, right? We have math, we have languages, we have the sciences, right? The natural sciences and what other sciences are they? Social sciences. Hey, give it away.
Sure. Wrong person.
Social
podcast.
And give it Tessa Elena.
See, there, perfect match.
So we have the sciences, right? Across board, whether Westwana, Chitonga, you are Chinese, whatever nationality you are, those are the subjects that you do at school, regardless of where you are. But the way in which these subjects, right, are being taught is the difference. That's the curriculum. How you're teaching these subjects is the difference. So then you will have CAPS. CAPS is more sit behind the desk, write down your work, and then offer it.
Okay.
Right? Whereas with Montessori, it's like we have all these concepts that everybody is talking about. But now we're going to break it down. So we're going to start teaching the concept in a concrete manner first, so that the child, there's that physical memory, right, that is formed in your body. So before we move on to the abstract.
Okay.
So you get the concrete concept, same concept, right?
Yeah.
And
of like
then,
math.
Of math.
Yeah.
We're not in the math classroom. I was actually going to grab something to show you.
Yeah.
So with numbers, for instance, right? I'm not going to teach kids just to count numbers because they don't know what that is. It's just things that you're saying. Whereas with us, with Montessori, these are number rods. These number rods, you can count from 1 to 10.
Okay.
1 being the smallest number and 10 being the largest number.
So you mean physically they see
they can physically touch it and they can see the difference between 1 and 2.
Okay.
Right? They can see the difference between 2 and 3 as you go.
So you're saying other schools don't do that?
No. At this age, it's numbers.
So they write the number?
No. Okay. They write the numbers, yes, and they say the numbers. How many times have you heard a parent say, my child can count?
Yes. No, I was so proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how was that number?
Yes.
And then the child was like, one, But whereas if you do the concrete first, a child will explain, 1 is the small one from 2. So if you give them 1 and 2, you say which one is big.
Yeah.
They'll be able to tell you without fail that 2 is bigger.
Yeah.
Whereas with a person who's just taught 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you say, okay, which one is big? They get to only experience that later in life when now they try to apply logic.
Okay.
Whereas here, you're like, no, okay, fine. You can do it now.
Yeah.
Here, one. This is 2. Touch them. Feel them. Which one is big? Which one feels big? This one. Okay, this one is 2. Key. 1, 2. Do you see it? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the concept of numbers.
Yeah.
So we move from concrete to abstract, right? So you will find that sometimes a person has been doing the same kind of work for a very long time, maybe for 3 weeks. And you're like, but TJ killing you know, it's just to actually just get him to get used to it.
Okay.
That's the whole idea. And it's not just to teach just the numbers itself, but to also teach the concept of odds, of the idea of zero.
Okay.
So that's why you will find a child is still sitting with the same kind of material for a long time. That's because we have now gone from numbers, seeing which one is big and which one is small. And now we're going to actually just separate them, gadi, odds and even. And then we're going to move to actually introducing the concept of zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not the idea that you can count, because I remember you saying this to us about, let's say, letters, right? And you're taking phonics, no?
Yes, phonics. I want to have that conversation again with parents, because and every time I'm thinking in my head, I have to have this conversation. I remember you. Yes, it's phonics.
Okay, and phonics, you're saying it's the sound of the letter, because then I guess it's because that's how they're gonna say it. Yes. As opposed to he can know the entire letter from A to Z, right? But can't apply it.
Mara, even then, ring apple.
Yeah.
How the apple? Like it's an apple.
Yeah.
That's why you say
Okay.
Not a. That's why a lot of people, like especially people who are like our age or even older, they will say an apple in English. It's apple.
Yeah.
It's not apple. It's apple.
So that's how we
it's
talk.
the sound that that the letter makes. It's
Okay.
Apple. Ant. It's not ain't. It's ant. So that's why we teach the phonics rather than the alphabets now.
Okay.
The alphabets they will learn at a later stage as they get into grade 1.
Yeah.
When they've done all their phonics and they understand their sounds, and remember the sounds are taught because when you put those sounds together, then they make up a word.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's applied.
It's applied.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So that is the whole idea of teaching phonics instead of alphabets.
Okay.
Because when you put the phonics together, the sounds, then they make a word.
Okay. So you are teaching these people to operate in the world, essentially, as opposed to, like you're saying before, just be book smart and then we don't even know where it's going to end. You know, because I for me, one of the conversations I always have is trying to understand the point of school itself, right? And education and why we do it. And my wife has been trying to explain to me this concept, ECD, and how important this period is, right? For fathers listening, explain to me why this period is important and how we can get involved without just leaving it to you, the educator, to sort out.
Oh, thank you. With the years from conception, actually, from conception until, I'd like to push it to 9 years, right? But then they say from conception to 7, I say 9 years because they're still developing at that time. These years are important in a sense that this is the time when the child just absorbs everything that they are given. So the way we are emotionally available or not available to our kids will affect how they turn out at a later stage. And this is not, by the way, to say that your child will not be a delinquent at some point or whatnot, but their body remembers how they were treated when they were kids, when they were younger, during this period, the formative years. I mean, it's formative. It's when everything is forming. The brain is forming. Your internal organs are still forming as well as a child. Yes, you might have them when you're born, all of them, but they're still forming. And they're creating memory in your body. And if you're exposed to like trauma at this age, you are bound to remember it. Not you like mentally, but your body is bound to remember the trauma as you grow older. So that's why it's important to be more aware of how you speak to your kids and what you do in front of your kids, what you teach them at this point. Because remember, I said they absorb. So if you teach a child there's a step by step that you need to follow through. When you make tea, for instance, that will be ingrained in them, and it will never leave them.
Yeah.
It's like learning how to drive.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how many times did you have to learn how to drive? And when you because after you got your license, you didn't have a car immediately. There was a period of time when you were not driving because you didn't have a car. But the moment you got in the car, you drove.
Yeah,
you knew. It's the same as that.
Yeah.
These years, I mean, okay, I'm not saying now teach them to drive, please.
But you're not saying don't do it either.
Terrible. But it's something like that. It's similar to that, where if you want to create a habit, do it now. If you want a habit, a positive habit, do it now so that you don't have to remind people when they're older to say, but do this, do that, do that. Why are you not this? So if you want to talk about work ethic, you're not going to say to a 6-year-old, yes, I'm teaching you work ethic, but you're just showing them how the kind of work ethic that is acceptable to you or to them, that is something that they need to aspire to. Like by the time they're done doing that and they're older, they're like, oh snap, that nigga was teaching me work ethic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I mean, unlike when you're older and you're sitting them down, you never taught them any of these things, and then you're trying to explain the concept of work ethic.
Yeah.
And that nigga's like, I'm not about that life. I'm not about that life.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a jump on these people, right? Because, and I've said this previous in the podcast before, because I've basically learned being a father from myself, right? I never had a father. You said that your father was your hero, so he was there, right? I'm assuming he was present because you can't be a hero. He's still present, right? So I try to figure it out. And then I created an image in my head of what a father would be.
And what was that?
And I'm getting there. Okay. And a lot of it was what I saw and I thought is going to work. So when I become a father, I'm going to tell them what to do. So like the work ethic thing, I'm going to tell them, they're going to do it, they're going to listen. Ne? Yeah, that's what my wife said. And I think not even a year, maybe 3 months, TJ the firstborn. Then I realized these people have a personality. Ne? It's not working, this thing that I'm trying to do, And I was like, okay, I can do things for them. I can look after them. And I think a lot of it was because I wasn't looked after. I don't know where it comes from. I can do. And when I start speaking to you, I speak to other people, I speak to my wife, I do a bit of research. Like, no, but at this age, they actually can. Libana, they can see that it's a free-for-all here. So I'm going to chill.
Of course.
Because it is a free-for-all. But when you start putting your foot down and say, no, these are your responsibilities. I need you to do this, do that, do that. They start learning, oh, I need to put my dishes away. I need to pick up my stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I won't pick it up. Let me see what the parents are going to do. Oh, snap, I know I get in trouble. And they know that. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to apply all of this information before my time runs out. And maybe that's another extreme on my side.
I think you are trying to do it right.
Yes. Yeah, you summarized it. I think so.
Yeah, you're trying to do it right. And one thing that I can tell you is that there's no manual for it, right? It's the best way for them to get it is if you do it with them. Do it with them. Don't say you need to do this, you need to do that. Like the first 3 months, those 3 months that you were talking about, you should have been doing it, right? Like tidying up, making supper, putting them to bed. And then the next time, what you do is you say, okay, can you please help me pick up the toys? Right? Let's pick up the toys. We pick up the toys. And then 2 days later, you're like, because these are your toys, I think you actually, and you can pick up your own toys. I think you need to do it on your own. Right? And then they do it on their own. And they can see how tidy it is now. They enjoy that whole achievement of being able to pick up their own toys without the help of mommy and daddy.
Sure. But they really want you to be involved, don't they?
They do. You have to. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah, this whole thing is...
This way of just I'm going to sit here and you must do it.
Yeah, because it creates its own thing.
Yeah.
When we were talking before we were recording, you're saying that generally, it's not all of them, your interactions with fathers is rigid. And you say that they see education as an unnecessary necessity.
It is that. It's like, okay, you have to go to school. I mean, for you to be a better person, for you to have a better life, go to school. I don't have to be involved though. I will pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's that.
Is that a better approach?
It's what you know. It's not necessarily bad. There's a better way of doing it and a more effective way as well, because now you're involved. How do you feel when you have been doing, like, maybe, I mean, I'll take a mundane, like a chore, for instance. You're washing the dishes and you do the dishes with TJ and you guys are done and the kitchen is clean.
Yeah.
That's a nice feeling.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, I'd speak for myself. I don't know about other dads, but also part of it, I think initially when we had kids, the big notion about fathers was, I need to work. I need to be responsible for things. I need to pay for stuff. Yes, I want to be there, right? And that's the other balance that we struggle with. If I'm working so hard, I am unable to do certain things that I want to, but I'm unable to. But you need me to do this stuff. And I think for me, the pandemic cut all of that.
Just reminded you.
No, it did. Like, no, it came like to a screeching halt. You understand? And then I was with my children every single day. And I thought I was a great dad, but then I realized, yeah.
I don't like these kids.
You know what I'm saying? In small doses, those people are right. But then that's within those questions of, okay, how can I do this better? What is happening here? Who are these people? You know? And then part of it was like also, I'm curious as to how other fathers are approaching this thing. You know? Like, what do they think about... how do you become a better father to create a better society in general? You know, because this thing is tough.
So the friends that you had this bachelor party with, did you ask them about?
No, I didn't.
I think you should. It would it would be very nice to actually...
You mean for the podcast or generally?
Generally, and the podcast as well, just to hear what the struggles are, like the real conversations. I'd love to hear the real conversations, because you need to also remember that in relationships, right, as a woman and in a relationship of a woman and a man, without even saying it, there's certain roles that are just given to the woman and certain roles that are given to the man. And it's kind of like expected that way without even saying anything. And I would like to, I mean, now people are just coming into their own as well. So a lot of women are like, no, but I don't want just a man who's going to go to work and provide and just pay for things. I want someone who is more involved in the family life, you know? And now you do get a man, and then it's like he finds it very difficult to adjust to this kind of family that you as a woman or you as a couple, for instance, have, like, you aspire to that. And I would like to know or hear what the difficulties are. Because sometimes it's not a matter of a person doesn't want to. It's because they're not used to that. They're not used to having that kind of woman in their lives, right? They're not used to having that kind of family set up in their lives. So but they still want to do that, but they don't know how to.
True. And part of it also is, I think a lot of us were conditioned that way. So I think our society, and that's why I believe that a lot of our problems, right, are created by us as a society and can be fixed by us as a society. So it's not just, it's your men, that's your problem, you fix it. Women, that's your problem, you fix it. And so when it comes to our relationships, society itself, its structures, this patriarchal thing that everybody speaks about, it's present everywhere. To fix it, all genders, sexes have to talk and figure it out. And each partnership has to figure out their own thing of what works for them. It just becomes harder now in society because if a guy has been conditioned a particular way, he saw his mother just without even, like you were saying, he saw it without even anyone saying anything. The mom cleaned, the mom cooked. He saw the dad went to work and he came back from work and he behaved a certain way. When he gets into a relationship, he's going to expect that, even without it being explicitly said. And then when it's not reciprocated, it's like, what is happening now? You know, there's a clash now because he doesn't understand what is going on. And I think those are part of the things. But I also believe that we have been presented with new information now. You know, we all know better.
But I won't say kinto zakhale per se, you know, I think it's just a matter of not knowing what to do with the information. The information has always been there. It's just that, as we've been saying right now, it's how you've been conditioned to. I mean, I know families where the dad would even work a 9 to 5 and he would still come back home and cook. Yeah. Because people need to eat.
Really?
Yes.
I never seen that.
My dad used to make literally, I know, like I would tell my mom, okay, that's
the kids. They like
exactly, because my dad and they didn't make it seem like it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, yes, my mom would make most of the meals at home, but dad was also given that opportunity to cook if he wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, and I grew up seeing that. So it's also now difficult for me as an older woman, right? Or an older girl, whichever one, I don't know. As an older woman, to get in a relationship and then a man cannot clean up after himself in the kitchen. Like, yes, I cooked, yes, you ate, and now I must take your plate as well. How's about you actually just take everyone's plate and go put it in the sink or wherever, and you can do the dishes, right? And I have a problem with that. It's a big problem for me. Yeah. If you can't do that, and actually I have to tell you,
it's crazy,
or
right?
ask you to do that. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling. Like, dude, are you serious right now?
But like we said, like earlier on, there are people that were probably never taught that. And some people know the info, like you're saying, you don't know what to do information. But some people know information.
No, the information is there. It's otherwise. Just that the information is there, but you have never seen it happening in real life.
I'll tell you this. In my previous episode, the one I was recording, which is before yours, there's a guy I was talking to. We're from the same neighborhood, and he says in his side, he saw examples of present fathers that were there and so forth, right? And I tell my wife all the time, when I met her, she had father and mother in the same house. Shock of shockers to me. I never seen that before. Yeah. It could be that I also became blind to it, right? When growing up, I think maybe there was one guy that I knew who had both parents. Most of the households I know were single mothers. Yeah. Fathers were not involved, or they're there back in Abato. So I never knew that stuff, you know. But I think for me, when I had children, I never wanted to leave the rearing of those children to the mother. Completely. Because they're my children, you know. And there's nothing in my household that can say, Ekia mama, Ekia how. There's things that we do better and do differently. Yes. And we're different people. And that's a given. But the idea of leaving the rearing of your children to your wife or somebody else disturbs me. and I don't want any part of it.
I'm happy you feel that way, and please keep it that way.
No, thank you.
But please keep it that way, because there are so many children out there who do have fathers but are growing up without fathers.
Yeah, no, I know that thing, you know, and I've seen that, and obviously not all circumstances are the same, you know, but like having kids is not something you play with. And that's what I'm saying. That's why this education thing is important. Like, this isn't something that you play with.
But you see, even with education as well, I want to just reiterate that education, it just doesn't end after matric or after varsity.
Yeah.
Education is continuous.
Yes.
It's from jump. You know, the moment y'all know you're pregnant, right?
Yes.
To death.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
That is the real till death do us apart.
Now when they hit like 16,
Shame, you won't feel like that.
No, I'm joking.
No, I know you would but you won't feel like that.
Before we conclude, you remember your tools and tricks and habits? It's okay, I wrote them down for you. Don't worry about it. You said there's no playbook.
There is no playbook.
I'm making a playbook.
Are you serious?
No doubt, I'm making a playbook. And hopefully, one day, once we've all compiled it, there'll be a young man who's like, I'm just about to go into this stage. Where do I start? Hey, there's people who've been doing this before and have done it. Have a read, make your decision. So give us your tools, tricks, as an educator and as a parent.
Okay, number one, we've already touched base on it.
Which one?
Is the playbook.
Yeah, you said there's no
There is no playbook. And then number two is you need to find your tribe. Yeah. And I like the word tribe because it just defines the unity that you need to have with these people, right? And when I say tribe or unity, it means that those people will see you for who you are. In your bad times, your good times, the times when you actually don't even want to fuck with them, you know? Because then they will know, no, he's not in a good space right now. Let's take TJ, let's take Mpo.
Yeah.
Let me take them for a walk. Do you know what I mean?
I found that women do that so well.
Yeah.
And my wife has got a tribe.
You see.
And they have a group.
Yeah, and when I say tribe, I don't mean the ones who you're gonna talk about somebody's booty at a
well, that's a tribe also.
Not just that.
Okay.
Not just that.
Yeah, but you can't take that out.
No, I'm not gonna take it out. I'm not gonna single that out. Okay, I'm saying not the ones who will only talk to you about the nice things. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And also, even when you're messing up, they're really not above telling you where to get off when you're messing up on some
I agree with that idea.
You're messing up.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I still fuck with you.
Yes.
Let's go.
I agree.
You know?
Yes.
Number three, love your children for who they are. And this is important to me in a sense that we have children out of wedlock, right? I meet dude and I, we hook up, we hit it off, right? We have a child. And then things go down south after that. Dude and I don't get along, we break up. Dude breaks up with child as well. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? Because now you cannot separate the child from the mother. And that is a problem. That's why we have absent fathers.
Yeah.
And then also, okay, we have a family, right? Mom and dad are there. We have siblings. And now the oldest siblings is an overachiever. And the other one is just the one who likes to cut fabric and make dresses and whatnot, right? That delinquent one, right? And then you're like, why can't you be like your sister?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
At that time, it means that you haven't learned your child's personality. You don't know what they like. And you're not really encouraging, you're not nurturing that personality. Therefore, you will have a delinquent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you're always chastising this child on some, why is that behavior? comparing them.
Yeah.
So that's why I say love your children for who they are, not for who you are as well. Because you're like me, when I was that age, I did this and that and that and that, and the child's like, but I'm not you.
Yeah. No, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially as someone that has boys, no, I know that. So I'm glad that I'm learning to get out of that, you know, and I really don't want my kids to be anything like me. You know, I really want them to be whomever they wish to be. And like you're saying, one of the things I hate is when people compare my kids because they're so different, right? And the one can be very moody and the other one is a free spirit. And then everyone's like, oh, when are you so cool? He's a free spirit. He's a guy. I'm like, but no, he's different. You got to treat him as such and find what interests him, what he likes and so forth, you know. But thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for what you do. We appreciate it. And I love the fact that my kids are learning yoga, piano, all these things that I only learned yoga, I think, in my late 20s, 30s.
Right? At least you learn. At least you learn. Are you still learning?
I was lucky because my wife was that way inclined. You know, I'm from the school that if you did yoga, you were a softie. I'm from that school until I did it.
And then you're like, yo.
And I said, you come do it.
Can you please tell them? Please,
doesn't matter what type of guy you are.
Please tell them.
Come try it. I'm telling them now.
But to us a belief, because people tend to think yoga is just a chill thing. Meditate.
Yeah. No, I could, and she was doing the hot yoga, right?
Yeah.
And Bikram yoga. And I was like, nah, dude, like, give me weights. I'm not doing this every day. Yeah, but yeah, those are the kinds of things that I appreciate, and it's giving them a rounded experience about life, and they're learning these things early and no airs about stuff, even the concert, different music, no things that are for this gender or that gender. Kids must just experience life, and I think that's dope. So thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
This was lovely.
That's the show. Thank you so much to Ntsiki for participating in this episode. I hope you got from it as much as I did. Be sure to check out Apple Tree Montessori on the interwebs and on social media. Please make sure that you rate our content, subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Sharp.